In 1963, President John F. Kennedy said, "Time and the world do not stand still. Change is the law of life." And the pace of change is alarmingly fast today. The global connectedness and breakthroughs in technology that fuel innovation possibilities simultaneously create a lack of stability that is, for some people, confusing and disconcerting. Make no mistake, change is inevitable. The challenge is how to navigate it in a way that minimizes pain and maximizes growth. In a large organization, major change does not happen easily or quickly. There are many forces that can stall it: inflexible culture, cumbersome bureaucracy, the general human fear of the unknown. To lead change effectively, we need a method designed to advance productive ideas while hurdling these very real barriers. Dr. John Kotter developed such a method, backed by more than 30 years of study and practical experience, with the endorsement of Harvard Business Review. In 2 award-winning books, Kotter outlined an 8-step model that guides leaders through the process of inspiring and implementing successful change. Sometimes, managers under pressure to show results will try to skip a step, but successful change of any magnitude goes through all 8 stages, usually in the sequence shown. The process can operate in multiple phases at once, but skipping even a single step or getting too far ahead without a solid base almost always creates problems. Kotter's model is a proven template for implementing change. But the real key, the driving force behind successful change, is leadership, leadership, and more leadership along the change journey. This cannot be overstated. The first critical step is to ensure people see and understand the need for change. Change is hard, and people are naturally resistant to it. Change forces us to move away from what's familiar and comfortable to something that's unknown. To overcome that anxiety, people need to believe the cost of complacency is high, that there is genuine danger in the status quo. Without a sense of urgency, employees will not grant their personal buy-in, and that is essential to achieving the results of a major change effort. That takes credible communication, and a lot of it, from a coalition of trusted leaders. The second step is to assemble that leadership team. To achieve grassroots acceptance, an alliance of carefully selected leaders must be identified to steer the process and help people become invested in new methods or priorities. You've probably heard the old adage, when it's everybody's job, it's nobody's job. Members of this team should have authority and credibility, and they should possess strong communication skills. This group's job is to keep information flowing, to connect everyone in the agency to what is being planned, why it is important, and how they are affected. This group also is in charge of breaking down walls that impede progress and ensuring the powerful forces of inertia are recognized and dealt with. Achieving a shared commitment to the change process requires 2 critical components: a compelling vision and a reasonable plan of action. Step 3 is all about deciding what to do and marketing it for buy-in. It's not enough to raise alarm over the price of doing nothing. To be embraced and supported, ideas for change must be packaged in a way that paints a positive future, a vision of something fresh and new that's better and more exciting than who we are now. As far as content goes, we don't want something that is impossibly vague, nor do we want meticulously detailed. But we do want communicable. Simplicity and clarity are essential. The most effective transformational visions tend to be ambitious but achievable, a more appealing state that takes advantage of trends and technology, but not people. If the guiding leadership can develop a compelling vision that describes a clear picture of the future and resonates with our core values, they have a recipe for effective and enduring change. Of course, a recipe is not enough. The really hard work comes next, making it happen. The real power of a vision comes when most of the people involved in an enterprise understand and share its goals and direction. That shared sense of a desirable future can motivate and coordinate the kinds of actions that create transformation. Gaining that common commitment is never an easy task. A new vision is a scary proposition. Leaders have to wrestle with and be able to address lots of questions that naturally arise. What will this mean for me? If I have to operate differently, can I do it? Will sacrifices be required of me? Does this plan propose a better future, one I believe we can achieve? All these questions have to be answered before people let go of the status quo. To be convincing, leaders must address concerns on an emotional level as well as an intellectual one. The vision message must be communicated and explained over and over again. The most carefully crafted message rarely sinks deeply into a person's consciousness after only one hearing. Our minds are too cluttered, and any communication has to fight hundreds of other ideas and distractions for attention. Dumping a gallon of information into a river of routine communication will not get the job done. The magnitude of this task often unnerves management. One study suggests the average employee receives about 2 million words of communication from her organization in a quarter. The typical communication of a change vision, on the other hand, consists of about 15,000 words. Therefore, if rolled out in typical fashion, the change vision will capture less than 1% of the corporate communication market share. Yet leaders are often astonished when people don't seem to understand the new approach. So it's important to refine the message and repeat it multiple times through different means: meetings, videos, posters, conference calls, one-on-one talks. When the same message comes at people from 5 different directions, it stands a better chance of being heard and remembered. Look for ways to tie the vision back to people's daily activities, ever mindful of the need to remove barriers that stand in the way of its acceptance. And always, always walk the talk. If leaders don't communicate the vision through behavior as well as words, it has no chance to succeed. The final point to make about communicating vision is this: the time and energy required for effective vision communication are directly related to the simplicity and clarity of the message. Communication works best when it is so direct and so simple that it has a sort of elegance. This requires great clarity of thought because it's much harder to be clear and concise than it is to be overcomplicated and wordy. Assuming we have achieved a groundswell of acceptance and buy-in for the vision, the next 2 steps are connected to empowerment and celebration. Empowerment is one of those trendy buzzwords, but the idea is important. It's about helping more people to become actively involved in the outcome, making decisions, choosing their own actions, applying their skills, and directly contributing. Major internal transformation rarely occurs unless many people assist. The encouragement and freedom for each person to play a part within his or her circle of influence can go a long way to building enthusiasm across all lines of the organization. This is also the point at which it becomes crucial to identify and deal with mid-level managers who are not on board. So the process is now well underway with significant momentum, but it's important not to let up here. This is the point where it becomes crucial to infuse new energy for the final push. The best tool for that purpose is the short-term win. Short-term wins are important because major change takes time, and some people tire of the process. Zealous believers will stay the course no matter what, but most of us need to see convincing evidence that all this effort is paying off. People want to see clear data that the changes are working out before they join in. A good short-term win has 4 characteristics. It's visible, it's unambiguous, it's clearly related to the change effort, and it's genuine, not a gimmick. When a restructure promises savings in 12 months and they happen, that's a win. If a format change results in favorable customer feedback, that's a win. The point is, something beneficial and tangible needs to be realized and shared in about 6 to 12 months. Wins reinforce the goal, reminding people what we're trying to do together and why it's important. Celebrating progress builds further momentum. These wins also test the vision against real conditions and results, and they undermine the efforts of cynics and detractors. Getting this far, through these first 6 phases, is a significant achievement. But in order to create practices that become part of the agency's DNA, there are almost always a few more cultural walls to blast through. These short-term wins are extremely important and valuable, but we have not yet reached the finish line. Until changed practices have been driven into the culture, they are very fragile. If urgency is lost now, the forces of complacency and tradition can sweep back in with remarkable speed. Organizations have many interdependent parts. Somewhere along the line, questions arise about the need for all the interdependence. If unchecked or mismanaged, questions can stir unhealthy anger and resistance. But if channeled properly, these inquiries can be helpful. They can spur additional change and improvement. They can help the agency sort out which interdependencies are the result of history and not the current reality, building even more support for the innovation vision. And in a world where change is increasingly the norm rather than the exception, a little house cleaning can make future reorganizing efforts or strategic shifts less difficult. This again is where leadership is invaluable. Leaders who are outstanding change agents think long-term. They stay focused on the future. They take the time to ensure new practices are really working, to make adjustments where needed, to involve people at every level, and to communicate how and why these changes are making us better. And effective leaders do not let up until these practices are firmly anchored into the organization's culture. Culture refers to norms of behavior and shared values among a group of people. They are common ways of acting, and they persist because they are practiced regularly by the group and passed on to new members, rewarding those who fit in and penalizing those who don't. Organizational culture is powerful for at least 3 reasons. First, it exerts itself through the actions of many people. Second, the system sees to it that individuals are selected and indoctrinated well. And third, it all happens outside of people's awareness or conscious intent, and thus it's difficult to challenge. The secret is to graft new practices onto the old roots while pruning the inconsistent pieces. In the case of the National Weather Service, we have a great history with deep roots and a proud tradition. It is absolutely critical that any change initiative is aimed at building on that tradition, not replacing it or casting it aside. The Weather Ready Nation initiative does just that. It recognizes the need for change while acknowledging what we have always done well. And it offers concrete ideas for bridging us to tomorrow in a way that maintains that place of prominence we have earned in the hearts and minds of Americans. Culture change is the caboose of the process. It comes last because it depends on long-term results. Actions have to produce tangible group benefits for a period of time. People must see and feel the connections between the new behavior and better performance. And if it is to stick, promotion practices and succession decisions must be compatible with the new practices. It's clear by now that this business of culture change can be challenging and messy. Many business management textbooks devote entire chapters to defining culture and identifying components that determine whether it's healthy or dysfunctional. Here's one that is simple and direct. Culture is about long-standing habits in the way people treat and interact with one another. A healthy culture is one that is effectively led, continually looking to improve, and adaptable to change. You can contribute in a positive and meaningful way to changing the culture of the National Weather Service. Just remember, culture happens slowly, day by day, as leaders who understand the process reinforce the urgency, articulate a clear picture of a better future, and connect people to that vision. By acting together to achieve those common goals, we can reach the finish line and ensure the National Weather Service is perceived and supported as a world-class, science-based service organization that adds real value to a weather-ready nation. That is a cultural transformation worth pursuing.